Hey, 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 happy Wednesday night, everybody. Welcome back to the Grateful Chef Kitchen. I am Chef Eric Eisenbud, the Grateful Chef. So grateful that you've joined us once again, hopefully once again, for part two of a two-part series for St. Patrick's Day, getting ready, preparing for it. It's next Tuesday, and hopefully you followed last week and you saw the show last week where we talked about making our own pickling spice instead of buying the store-bought stuff that's dry and God knows how long it's been in the jar, and also brining our brisket, the flat part of the brisket, because as much as you barbecue and you want that fatty brisket for when you're putting it in the smoker for 16 hours or whatever, for corned beef, you want it a little bit leaner. So we go with the flat. Yeah, so this is a recipe that is taking a week to make, which is okay with me. It's another project in the laboratory that is the Grateful Chef Kitchen. And yeah, so St. Patrick's Day reminds me of a little joke. Lynn loves when I tell jokes. What do you call an Irishman on your back porch? Go ahead, think about it. I'll give you some time. Here's the answer: patio furniture. Built like wrought iron is. Lynn is cracking up on the inside, I can tell. And who is this Lynn? She is the camera woman, the producer, and the wind beneath my very funny, full of dad jokes wings. And yeah, without whom this couldn't be possible, because I can't cook and run a camera at the same time. Anyway, so yeah, we're here. We're doing it again. St. Patrick's Day corned beef part 2, cooking and plating. Very exciting. Now, of course, the brisket does take 3 hours to cook. Let me put my sign away. And so I had to do it ahead of time. So we are also doing a classic Irish side dish, a lesser known one. So we're not doing the traditional cabbage, corned beef and cabbage. We're doing this great corned beef that we made ourselves. We're doing a traditional Irish dish called colcannon or colcannon. I think it's pronounced colcannon. And basically it is a mixture of mashed potatoes and some kale and some spring onions and butter. My Irish friend Mike tells me there's 16 different dairies that Irish people typically eat. So we've got butter in this, got sour cream in that. So we're going to do all that. And so before we get to the brisket, we're going to get right to the colcannon. And it's very easy to do, just a couple of components. Again, I had to make part of it, I had to make in advance. So I got these potatoes that I boiled. I just want to put them in the water, warm them up, just for a second. Really, they're fully cooked. I don't really need to cook them. I just want to put them in the boiling water. I'm going to warm them up. And we are going to start making a paste. This is a really very interesting recipe. Once these potatoes are warmed up, I'm going to strain them out.
What's your paste made of?
Well, I'm going to tell you in 1 second. All right, so you want to see this? We've got these beautiful potatoes. You want to use a floury potato here. You don't want to use a waxy potato. So this is a regular baking potato. This is about 2 pounds of baking potatoes. I peeled them, cut them in half, cut them in chunks, and they're going to go into our pan right here. And we're going to go, because they're warm, I want to add my butter now. So this is 4 ounces of butter. I'm going to put it in, let that melt. It's all stuck in here. It's okay. I'm going to put them in the hot potatoes so that the butter will melt. And once that's melted, we're going to mash them. All right. Now back at the cutting board, our next ingredient for the colcannon is kale, regular curly kale, not something I eat often. If I'm going to eat kale, I usually do that dinosaur kale, the Latisano kale. It's much more tender. You can make like a kale Caesar salad out of it. But today, we're going with the curly kale.
Is this like the kale that you get at the old salad bars?
This is the kale that Fridays, was it Fridays? TGI Fridays was the #1 buyer of kale back in the 80s.
I thought it was Pizza Hut.
Maybe it was Pizza Hut. It was Pizza Hut. All right, so I'm just putting it in my little basket here because I'm going to now put it in the boiling water for a minute. And we're going to talk about our other ingredients. So I just want to knock this down a little bit, take the rawness off the kale, get a really nice bright green flavor. I mean, color. Is green a flavor, honey? I do not think so. Look how bright, beautiful, and green that is. Awesome. All
and
right.
it's even brighter with the coloring scheme that we have this evening on your video.
Fantastic. All right, so the next ingredient is the recipe calls for spring onions. It's a little bit early for me to find spring onions. Spring onions are kind of like a big scallion with a nice bulb of onion on the bottom. I actually was able to find them in an Asian market last week, and I had one left. So I've got that, and I supplemented it with a little regular, plain old scallions. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to make a kale and onion mixture. Got my little food processor here. Make sure our kale is going. And I'm not sure if I'm going to need to do this in 2 batches, but we'll see.
So while you're over there, we've got Susan Case Seckel, who said hello.
Hey, Susan.
RTR Riders. I forgot his name.
Nice. All right. So this is good. This is about a minute in here. We're letting it drain, and I'm done with the water. This is the same kind of thing you would do like a ramen noodle in. Very cool. All right. Back over here, we're going to see what we can fit into our food processor. I don't want to jam it up too much. So yeah, just for fun, we'll do 2 batches. So I'm going to take half of my green onions, my spring onions. I'm going to put them in here. We're going to make our first batch. This food processor will make easy work of it. Chop, chop, chop. And we just want to pulse it. We don't want a really smooth paste necessarily. It's all going to mix in with our potatoes. All right. We'll organize here. And it goes into our little bowl. Obviously, if you have a big food processor, you can do it. You can do it in a blender too, but I just have like a really big Vitamix, and I didn't think that
I wanted to clean it.
that Lynn wanted to clean it.
I appreciate that.
All right, second batch going in. So you can see it's really easy, and hey, it may just be the best way to use kale or to eat kale.
So this is like the adding some healthy stuff into your potatoes.
Yeah, but then we got butter and all sorts of other good stuff in there.
Everything is a balance.
The rest of the spring onions. Fantastic. Again, I want to mention that my prep deck was perfect for this prep. I've got all my containers. I've got everything measured out. Love it. All right. That's simple.
I see Colin Haycock's out there. Hey, Colin.
Hey, Colin.
And I see Lisa Lobie in Detroit.
Who?
Lisa.
Oh, hi, Lisa. Thanks for joining us, as always. All right. So now we've got our kale mixture. We're going to go back to the stove now. And we're going to start mashing our potatoes. I'm going to take this with us. So we've got our melted butter that is nice and soft. And we are just going to mash these potatoes. And again, you can, if you like them super mashed, you can really mash them. If you like them a little chunky, leave them a little chunky. Not a big deal. whatever you want. This is your kitchen, your rules. My kitchen, my rules.
And do you like yours chunky?
I do like it a little chunky.
Is that because your arm gets tired?
No. It's just the way I like it. So I'm going to take a little Chef Liberty over here, and I want to add just a little bit of this water, just to moisten it just a little bit, like so. You could add some of the water from the corned beef as well. So there you go. That's perfect. You could always add more butter. All right. Now, once we have that mashed, we are going to add the kale mixture, which will also add some moisture to this. Mash that all together. Wow, this looks really
healthy.
Healthy. I'm going to switch utensils. Pardon me for the noise. I'm going to switch to a spoon. And I just want to incorporate this in so it's nice and evenly distributed. And I think I will take Lynn's hint. I don't know if you noticed that subtle hint to add more butter.
That was not a hint. I was just joking about adding more butter.
Yeah, this looks nice.
You can always add more butter.
Yep. I'll add a little bit more butter.
Wow, that looks really good.
Yeah. All right, so now we've got it incorporated. And at the end, I'm going to add, this is simply scallion, and it's nice finely diced. Just going to add that in. It'll kind of freshen it up a little bit. Beautiful. Let's go with this. Oh, yeah.
We've got Eugene Jackson Bray. He said, good evening, Eric.
Hello, Eugene. Nice. All right. So that's our side dish. Really simple. I'm going to season it with a little salt and pepper. A little sea salt going on over here. We'll go with the pepper. Nice. It's a beautiful thing. Okay. And we are done with this. I still want to add just a tad more water. Just not in the recipe. And then a little bit butter.
And you just want them moister than they were.
Yeah. They're looking a little dry. You know, I cooked them ahead of time for the purposes of the video. So I'm guessing when you cook them and you take them right out from their initial cook and put them in here, they'll mash easier. I'm going to let that butter melt. I think I'll even turn the heat on a little bit.
That you let them drain for a while. So
yeah, and I did let them drain. So, you know, one of the not a benefit of television. Okay. So next, we're going to go talk about the brisket.
Before we're there, we've got Jay Judge with us tonight, too.
Wow, we are certainly honored to have Mr. Jay Judge in New Mexico joining us tonight, and his lovely wife, Lynn.
That's not me.
That is not you. All right. This is beautiful. I like the way this looks. I'm going to let that butter melt. Beautiful. Put the lid on. Fantastic. Let's go to the brisket, babe. All right, so in this pot, we have our brisket. So let me tell you a little bit about the procedure. Nice. So, one of the interesting procedures that I did here, I had the brisket in the brine for 7 days. Every couple of days, I would lift the brisket out. I'd stir up the spices and everything, put it back in, let it go. So for 7 days, last Wednesday, you remember, I put it in the brine. And when I came time to cook this, I took it out of the brine. I rinsed it off under the sink, really nice, get all those spices off of it. An interesting thing, when you buy the corned beef in the bag, that salt bomb we talked about last week, they usually include a little tiny square of the pickling spice, which I agree with Meathead Goldwyn, whose recipe this comes from. It is a complete joke. There's not enough to do anything with it. It's not going to flavor water. It's not going to cover the brisket, so they almost put it in there just as a gimmick. Whatever. So what I did, I rinsed off the spices from the brisket. I put it in the pot, and I got the tap water as hot as I could, and I covered the brisket by at least an inch. So it was submerged in hot water. You start with the hot water, and then you bring that water up to 190 degrees, not higher. You don't want it at a rapid boil. What happens is when you take an uncooked piece of meat and you shock it with that boiling water, the warm water's fine from the tap, but boiling water, that thing shrinks down and seizes up, and it makes for a tough brisket. So I did that at 190 degrees, give or take, for 30 minutes. After the 30 minutes, I took the brisket out, dumped out the water, and I filled it. I put it back in the pot. I filled it again with hot tap water, maybe 3 inches above it. And that's when you start the 3-hour timer to cook. You want to bring it up to a nice simmer. You do not want it at a rapid boil. And you cover it and you let it simmer for 3 hours. You can keep testing it with your fork. And once it's like fork tender, you're good to go. So that happened here. I turned it off. It's been soaking in the brine. It's beautifully tender. However, there is still a little bit of give. I mean, a little bit of resistance. Because I don't want it falling apart. I don't want it, like I might like my barbecued brisket. It's you want to be able to slice it, but you want it to be super tender also. That's exactly what I'm looking for here. So you can see this shrunk a little bit if you remember the size of it last week. All right. Now, the next really important thing to talk about with a brisket, whether you're doing this or barbecuing, especially barbecue, you're spending 16 hours or whatever doing a brisket, and I've seen it time and time again. I see it sliced wrong. And all the time you spent, it was for naught because, it becomes tough. So, here's the grain. If you can get a flyby over this, Lynn, I'm going to try and flip it over because I think it's more prevalent on this side. So you can see the grain is going this way. All right? So if I cut it this way, you've got these really tight strands, right? Really tight. If you cut it against the grain, you've got connective tissue in between each grain, and that's where you're getting your tenderness from. So, of course, from it being cooked as well. But, yeah, don't make the mistake of going through all this trouble and then slicing it the wrong way. All right, so we're flipping it back over. And let's see what direction. I want to go from right here. So what we're going to get is a really nice pink color because we used a little bit of that curing salt, that Prague powder #1. And that has cured the meat. And this absolutely cutting like butter. Oh, you've got that beautiful pink hue that we come to know and want in our brisket when we're doing a corned beef. So you can, at this point, you can cut it thick like this for a boiled dinner, or you can let it cool down a little bit and put it on a slicer.
And at least on my screen, it's a little fluorescent pink.
It is. It actually is not as pink as it looks on the camera, I promise you.
Because it's actually pretty funny, and I don't know how to fix that, so we'll work on that. It's actually just a perfect...
It is what you expect from brisket.
Perfect color.
All right, so here we've got a couple of beautiful pieces.
And Chris Lee said, hey, next time, forget New York City, I'm just coming to your place.
Invitation open, buddy. That's what I was hoping we would do, but I understand you would have been pressed for time. All right, so we've got this beautiful brisket. I'm going to put that on our plate, like so. God, does this look good. Another plate over here for Lenny. You know I'm going to need another piece, so I'm going to take this butt end, just like this. All right. Oh, look at this piece, honey.
Oh, it fell off.
I'm going to try it. Here we go. Beautiful. Because I controlled the salt content, it's not salty. I love it. It's fantastic.
Michelle says, ooh, it looks beautiful.
So, little colcannon on our plate. You know, and I've got nothing against the regular, corned beef and cabbage, but I figured this was a real traditional side dish, so why not do something different? All right. We've got a nice bit of colcannon on here. Fantastic. Now, condiments. So, in speaking with my friend Mike, who's Irish, I was like, all right, so what do you serve with this? I know if I'm at a Jewish deli, I'm having it with mustard. So apparently I did a little research, and there's a couple of things that you can do. So one is mustard. So here in my dish, very glowy, see if I can block the light a little bit, we have some, shut that off. We have some whole grain, still glowy? Yeah, a little bit. Some whole grain mustard and some golden spicy brown. Perfect a complement to the brisket. Any fattiness will be handled. And in this dish, I have a classic. It's just sour cream and prepared horseradish. So apparently, there's a lot of pickled items that go with corned beef. So the prepared horseradish has a little vinegar in it. Mustard has vinegar in it. And my favorite thing, these are cornichons, small little pickles. They're high in vinegar content. I guess that's why I love them. You know, they look like this. You know, it's a baby cucumber, and it's got a really sharp taste. Usually have these on a cheese platter. All right, so I'm going to go with a little bit of each mustard, like so, and a little bit of horseradish. Again, sour cream and horseradish, and I bet you this sour cream and horseradish will go really well with the colcannon. All right, you want to get a little fancy? Take a little bit of that extra kale and put it on your plate. Nice. Look at that, honey.
Wow.
It's just like Pizza Hut.
Pizza Hut.
All right. So there we go. So before Lynn and I sign off and eat, it is that time again for Send the Shirt, See the Shirt. So this week, we are talking about South and Pine in Morristown, New Jersey. Not only one of my favorite restaurants, but the owner, Leah Gaccione, is one of my favorite people in the whole world. She is a doll. She has a restaurant that is right next to a major performing arts center, right in the main street of Morristown, New Jersey, a very historic town. Here's a little bit about her. She's the chef owner. She's born and raised in New Jersey. She's always had a passion for cooking, and she has a degree in culinary arts. Really important, she was the former executive chef. She was the executive chef and chef de cuisine for Bobby Flay. She has been responsible for opening many of Bobby Flay's restaurants. Very cool. Again, she's a doll. So for 7 years, she worked for Bobby Flay in restaurants Mesa Grill, Bar Americain, Gato in New York, Mesa Grill, Las Vegas, and Bar Americain in Connecticut. So South and Pine focuses on fresh seasonal ingredients. She creates very artistic dishes. It's very casual and inviting and a fun place to be. Her mission is to treat the guests as if they were in her home for dinner, provide them with exceptional service, create and serve the best food around, and to make South and Pine a neighborhood staple. It is certainly that for us. And she also opened one in a neighboring town, Central and Maine. Same vibe, same kind of food, really amazing. They are located at 90 South Street in Morristown. I don't have the Central and Maine address. They're open Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. to 9:30 for dinner. Friday and Saturday, 5 to 10:30, and Sunday, 5 to 9. And they do a brunch, 11 to 3:30 on Saturday and Sunday. South and Pine. What's it say?
South and Pine.
South and Pine. If you're in Jersey, go. It's wonderful. And give Leah a big kiss for me. And with that being said, we're going to eat this fantastic Irish meal.
Did you taste it?
I did taste it,
Did
but
you
I'll
taste
taste the Coke in it. But we also have some Irish soda bread, which I'm excited about. Let's see. Here we go. Mmm. I dig it. I'm going to need a little bit more salt.
That was pretty cool.
And I'm going to put a little pepper on mine. A little pepper on all of it. All right, guys. So I'm going to do one more taste of the meat. And we're out of here. I don't even know which one to eat. I'm eating both of them. All right. Super tender, but holds its shape. I love that. Fantastic. It's well worth a week's worth of work.
How much work was it?
It wasn't. The refrigerator did all the work. You saw. So anyway, enjoy your St. Patrick's Day. Please, please, please wash your hands. There's so many crazy things going on right now. God knows where we're going with it, but do your part. Wash your hands. You know, be real smart about it. Please go eat at restaurants while you still can, because God knows what they're going to close next. But please go to restaurants. Go to Chinese restaurants. They're safe. Support the mom and pop restaurants. They're on life support and they need our support. So do it. Grateful Chef approved activity. And I bid you be well, eat well, be kind, be nice, and love each other, because we're all we have. And we will see you next week on the next episode of Cooking in the Grateful Chef Kitchen with me, Chef Eric Eisenbud. Peace.